Good morning, gamers. How's everybody doing this morning? Coffee salute to you all. Another Catrim YouTube talking head here. Situation is, as we know, Path of Exile has had a rather interesting expansion. 315 Expedition League has received a lot of hate, unfortunately. Honestly, I'm not having much problems with the game. Yeah, it was a little rough at the beginning. I chose Reaper to start with. I'm having a blast with it. As you can see, this is from yesterday's stream up above my head here. It's really doing well. I'm barely into, I'm into maps. I'm doing white maps. This is a blight encounter, or not a blight encounter, but an actual tier 4 pin blight map. And I was able to successfully do it white. I didn't roll it or anything, didn't put any oils on it, but I was able to do it pretty easily with the Reaper and the skeletons and the phantasms that were in with it. It's not exactly what a lot of people thought would be how the Reaper would work. I'm using Ensnaring Arrow. I'm using Split Arrow to cast curses. And it's doing quite well for me. In fact, it's a little overpowered for white maps. I need to get my Atlas progressed to be able to get further up, and that's part of the reason why I'm bringing this up, is to talk a little bit about that, but also talk about the big elephant in the room. And that is, this league was so ill received that GGG has come out and they're having discussions, open discussions, with various Path of Exile groups. Last night was with the Beaclast team. Tarky Cat, Ziggy D, Nugian, Rise QT, and Octavian. They didn't pull any punches. They grilled Chris for 3.5 hours. I had to listen to it twice. So much was discussed. And I listened to the majority of it live the first time and listened to the recording again. I didn't watch a whole lot because I was at work. Of course, being full-time worker and part-time streamer, it's real hard to do. But second time through, I got about halfway through the video and my head went tilt. It's just too much information. But I have disseminated. I've got some notes here. I'm gonna discuss a little bit, some highlights, some things that spoke out to me to say, yeah, they know there's a problem, and they're trying to be transparent to a fault. Chris shared some internal memos in that video, internal discussions, internal notes that really shouldn't, to be honest, really shouldn't have been disseminated in this way, but it's what he had in front of him. It's what he had discussed with the teams, and it really shows that they want to be on our side, the player's side, that letting us know, yes, we hear you. This is what we're talking about. This is what we're thinking about for fixing the problems that there were. First and foremost, right up front, he said there are no major nerfs planned for 316. The new league that's coming out in almost 3 months. I mean, literally, we're coming up on weekend 4 of the league. Barely, not even a full month in. And they're already 30% down in revenue. He literally put that number out. 30% down in revenue from previous league. That is huge. That's a huge hit to the pocketbook. And that, I think, is what got their attention. Not only, it wasn't all the hate that was on Reddit. It wasn't all the hate that various streamers had put out. And I don't subscribe to the hate. these guys that are putting all their efforts into making this game for us to enjoy deserve a little bit of slack, but not a lot, because we ourselves are also emotionally and physically, because of time, we are entrenched in this game almost as much as they are. We want to have fun. This is our free time. This is our play time. This is the way we want to spend our time / money for enjoyment. And I look at it this way. People that don't spend a whole lot of money on the game for MTX, for stash tabs and whatnot, you've put your money in, you've got your enjoyment out, you're playing thousands of hours with this, and you may have spent only over the years $200-300. You've more than gotten your money's worth. I myself have spent a few $100s. I've played several thousand hours. In the single thousands, not the tens of thousands. And I have been frustrated. I've been challenged, yet I have enjoyed almost every minute of it, including Expedition League. I am enjoying this league. I've got a good skill. It's ramping up. I'm able to take on most content up to this point. I haven't gotten into late game, late maps. I'm working my way there. But I think the reason, one of the things that Chris has come out and said and is doing these interviews is to basically say, we're a team in this. We want your feedback. We want to make this good for you and for us at the same time. We want to reach a balance. So let's dig into some of the things that was discussed here. Again, no nerfs for 316. That's good news. We're going to be able to learn through this league, figure out what works, get our feedback to Chris and the teams, and let them know so they can make some adjustments. And that's what they're doing. Come out and basically has said, and not only did he do that in the Reddit / news post the first weekend about the mana and the flask redesign. I'm paraphrasing here. Yeah, I'm putting words in his mouth, but basically the mana nerf, we effed up. We know it. We own it. We fixed it. That's why we went so hard, so quick, because we knew things were broken. We had to put a fix in. And that's on them to do it. They don't like doing mid-league nerfs. They don't like doing mid-league buffs unless it's game breaking. And that's where we were at the first weekend of this league. We were in a broken game based on what people have stated. The flask redesign, I'm not even paraphrasing. This is actual quote. We don't like it either. So, okay. We understand that you don't like it. What's your plans for fixing? I won't get into some of the things that was discussed. I have some other things that are more important to me. But one of the excuses were that these things were finished so close to launch that they didn't have a whole lot of time to play test. And on top of that, kind of spreading the blame a little bit, is the reason why they don't use the alpha test team as much as they would like is because the alpha test team is leaking out information about the new league before they're ready to release the information. If anybody that is watching this that is on the alpha test team, please don't tell us what's coming. Don't. Let GGG do their official launch week, get the information out, patch notes and everything else. Help them make it a better game for everybody. But just keep your lips sealed. That's the whole thing. You should be under an NDA. non-disclosure agreement. I don't think that's the way Chris was talking. I don't think that was in place. So, or that is in place, and they don't want to take and fire all of them and rehire new ones with proper contracts and whatnot. All I'm asking is just honor an NDA as if you were under one. And let us enjoy the content when it comes out, not before. The ailment mitigations. This is something that a lot of people are having problems with. I know I myself am not enjoying a whole lot of the ailment mitigations that we lost with our flask rework. We're having to go about and thinking of other ways. There are other ways of doing it. There's nodes in the tree. I'm using some of those nodes in the tree. Be more reactionary with some of your flask uses. That's the way I've always been. Except for last league, I was more proactive instead of reactive in using my flask, and I had better damage mitigation in doing it that way. It's the way flasks worked. They've got a lot of internal discussions, a lot of ideas floating around. They're not really sure which path they're going to take yet, but they are discussing a lot of things. One of which, for sure, is being able to use the new instilling orb and enkindling orbs via a benchcraft instead of just random spamming. The RNG for RNG's sake. Every step of the way, it's RNG. This is one of the biggest problems I've got with Path of Exile and games of this ilk because of RNG. For me, when you craft something, please keep in mind, I come from a Minecraft background. For me, crafting is you put given items into a crafting bench and you get an expected result. Slamming a chaos orb or an exalted orb on an item and not knowing what you're going to get, that's not crafting. That's gambling to me. So that aspect I don't like. Using a Vol Orb, I expect that to be a gamble. Because you could literally destroy it. And if you don't know it up front, you'll learn it as you go. That was one thing that was discussed near the end of the podcast, was that the Path of Exile community run wiki is busted. There's a lot of places where that information is incorrect, misleading, old, out of date. And they basically asked Chris, can the devs take it over? Can they keep it up to date? This information is key for us designing our builds. For us to have success in our builds, we need to have accurate information. Path of building is a big thing in that regard as well. They did hire the developer of the original Path of Building on staff. And I was hoping, along with a lot of others in the community, that not only would they be hiring him into their development team, but also work with him and be able to pull Path of Building into the umbrella of the game itself. It would be so nice if some of these third-party tools were available through the game. They don't want to deal with that. I get that. I understand that. Third-party tools are always going to be there. I honestly feel that's PoEDB, Path of Building, Craft of Exile, PoE Ninja, all these sites that are out there, PoE Lab. They're going to be third-party sites, third-party tools. Awaken PoE Trade, another thing that I use. They're going to be out there. They're going to be usable. They're kind of necessary in certain aspects of the game that you really want to have. And it is what it is. For people coming on board, brand new to the game, there's a huge, steep learning curve. I know I went through it. I went from one very different genre of game straight into this, not having ever done any kind of RPG game. The learning curve has been steep. It still is for me. And I've been playing this game now for 2.5 years. Some of the other things that were discussed, one thing in particular that really spoke to me is that they understand that the end game grind is really a grind. It is extensive. You've got the Conquerors, you've got Maven, you've got other end game mechanics such as Delve that really... There's a ton of content. Yes, we have our choices on how we want to play our end game, but it all hinges on the Atlas. It's too big. It's too much for your average player to be able to successfully get through on a league-to-league basis. And here he went back into their in-house tools, communications, and literally read these things out loud to us. Some of the things that they're discussing, potential fixes for 3.6 potential. Keep in mind, a lot of what was discussed in this podcast is potential. They're not saying they're going to do it immediately. They're not saying they're going to do it for 3.16. It may be 3.17. It may be further down the line. But I think this particular discussion here, they're really wanting to have some kind of fix for the endgame Atlas for 3.16. Reducing the zones from 8 down to 4, cutting them in half. So you've got quadrants instead of octants, an inner and an outer. It's going to shorten, and the reason being it's going to shorten the path to Cirrus. So instead of 20 watchstones, it might be 16 to be able to hit Cirrus the first time. Number of maps, seriously reducing it by a third, from 160 down to 100. And when they do swaps for changing the location of various maps, they'll be swapping maps in and out just like they do with the Zonomods. I approve of this idea. I really do. It's going to mean the Atlas and also the Atlas completion and Awakener level will be adjusted appropriately based upon these changes. It's going to mean shortened time getting to the Uber endgame. And I really think that's going to be beneficial for those of us like myself that don't get a whole lot of time to play. I'm less than 20 hours a week, less than 15 most weeks. So I don't get very far, and I'm definitely not the fastest guy in Beaclast. Even with a zoom build, I'm still slow. I spend too much time in the hideout. I can't help it. It's just the way I am. I have to literally think my way through things. Plan it out as I go. I can't just elk and run as a lot of people do. I analyze, overanalyze, paralysis by analysis, however you want to put it. That's on me. Another thing that was put out sounds interesting. And it's a little pet project by the founders that they just do on the weekends. And that's what they have in-house. They have labeled it hard mode. And basically in the podcast, a lot of the podcasters that were in there were basically saying hard mode isn't quite the right name for it. How about masochist mode? Because literally you are going through, it's the same story, same maps, everything else, but the drop rates have been scaled back to almost nil. No crafting, no bench crafting, no master crafting, no none of that stuff. You just literally go by what you find on the ground, which is almost nothing. Uber rare drops of white, magic, and rare items. Uniques are basically impossible to find. If you find one, it's, oh my God, I got this. How am I going to use it? Type of deal, and they're enjoying it, and that's fine. It would not be for me, plain and simple. It would not be for me, but this would be a little tick box next to whatever league you want to play. You want to play the league, you want to play hardcore, you want to play softcore, trade, solo self-found. You've got the 3 modes right now. This would be a checkbox next to each one of them. Or no, it would be a checkbox on top of those 3. So you could play this mode in solo self-found. You could play it in softcore trade. You could play it in hardcore mode, which would be quite interesting. You play it in softcore trade. You couldn't even trade because you won't be able to get the chaos to be able to buy stuff in the trade. That's how rare this stuff is going to be. Honestly, it sounds like it'd be an interesting way for the true uber hardcore player to get into. And I'm all for it. If you guys want to play it, go ahead and play it. I might play it once just to experience it and then say, okay, not for me. Bye. I'm done. But, excuse me. And I'm going to sign off with this. There was one question that stood out more than anything else. And it was brought up by Ziggy D. The trade system is hard to use. If you want to juice your maps, you want to craft, you can't drop everything you need in maps in the end game unless you literally no life it 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, however it is. I mean, Ziggy D himself just recently farmed for a Mirror of Calandra, which is the most expensive chase item in the game on the trade leagues. And it took him until, what was it, Monday or Tuesday of this week that he completed it. He actually was able to farm enough stuff to vendor it off, whatever, and then trade for the divination cards that would give him a Mirror of Calandra. And he turned those cards into Navali. And he literally did a 24 hours, not just 24, he did a marathon stream. He did sleep. And when he was sleeping, he put up replays. But he kept the stream live the whole time until he was able to do it. And here's what he asked. Is there a way to have an auction housey type of thing for consumables? Trading of items, I'm fine with. And this is Ziggy D talking, not me. Trading of items, I get that. That should stay that way. But as far as consumables like sextants, scarabs, chaos, exalted orbs, alteration orbs, all the things that get consumed in some form of crafting. If there was an auction house type setup for us to be able to do, it would work a whole lot easier on the player's side. Can we get something like that in the game, please? And the discussion continued on from that. And basically, they're saying that the trade bots are out there. People have set up secondary accounts. They've given them these secondary accounts the stuff they want to trade off, and just let that take care of it. And then when they want currency, whatever, they trade, they trade with that bot themselves and take the stuff in, use it for whatever they're doing, and move on. It would be so nice if we as a community could say, I want to take, I've got 1,000 just a rough deal here. I've got 1,000 transmutes. I don't want to trade them in for wisdom scrolls at the vendor. There's an actual value to this. Can I trade these in for chaos? And then take my chaos and trade it in for scarabs or sextants or maps. Maps that get used up. They're consumable. Is there some way that we can do this? Have set prices, whatever it is, and then actual trade of items, gear, your weapons, your armor, your helmets, your jewels, stuff that enhances the character. Yeah, let us go ahead. Keep the trade system as it is for those. I'm fine with that. Personally, I am fine with that. But when it comes to your currency items, your consumables, stuff that gets used up as you play the game, if there was just a way to say, I've got a bunch of this I don't need, trade it in for something else, consumable wise, and then trade it for something that we need to be able to play the game, to enhance our maps, to juice our maps, to craft on our gear, because all this stuff gets used up in the process. If we could do that, that would make things so much easier, instead of having to go into trade and message a dozen, 24 people before you can get the quantity that you're wanting to be able to play the game in juiced mode. So those are my thoughts. I will post a link to the YouTube video down in the description below for this. Keep in mind also, there will be more coming. Chris stated a few times in this podcast that there will be more coming. There's another one probably for next week and another one the week after. I would like to see this continue. A bi-weekly dev meeting with Chris, with the various podcasting communities, or one-on-one with various streamers like Zizarin or Gazzy TV or Ziggy D himself, or whomever it is, Grimro, whoever it is that is one of the more major content creators. Hell, I would like to have a sit down, but I don't see that happening. I'm just a little guy. Yeah. But as it is, guys, this is my off day recording this, so I've got adulting I've got to do. So in the meantime, it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. Unfortunately, I do have to run. Catch you on the flip side.